The enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's an interesting proverb. You know, that proverb is actually a Roman proverb. Basically, it goes, my friend, the enemy of my enemy. Or in Latin, amicus meos, inimicus inimici mei. Damn, I haven't practiced Latin since high school. Anyway, I don't believe in that proverb, to be quite honest with you. And honestly, my father taught me a far better proverb. And like many biracial people, he tended to mix white culture with black culture and come up with something completely new. His remix of the proverb goes, the enemy of my enemy can kiss my ass too. My dad had a logic behind that, because honestly, when it comes down to enemies, do you really want to have, 6 degrees of separation with other people? Oh, I don't like this person, so I'm going to hang out with you and we can just talk about this person who we don't like, or we can coordinate our fucking attacks. Come on now, you niggas ain't in war. This is social media. So we're going to have to give a little backstory regarding this entire situation. Because let's be frank, everybody isn't familiar with the goldensphere, let alone Hybrid Vigour's struggle-ass channel. And the more important fact is, Shawn's behavior predates the goldensphere by 25 years? So even though the goldensphere did give him a space and did somewhat legitimize some of his bullshit antics, they can't be held responsible for a nigga who's been trolling for the past 25 years. Not exclusively responsible, at least. I mean, at the end of the day, this nigga's 44 years old. He should be held responsible for his own behavior. We're talking about Shawn Seguin. He is currently located in Ottawa. He's of French-Canadian and Trinidadian descent. So he literally has nothing to do with America in any way, shape, or form. He has no American ancestors. He has no ADOS ancestors. I know he likes to try to slide himself into that category, but he doesn't. He's not a part of that experience. And I'm not saying that you have to have that experience to have any type of camaraderie with other mixed race people, but you also got to understand, a lot of times these people who have no type of ties to Americans usually have a little bit of hostility. They're usually trying to shake up the conversation. Now, Shawn was born in 1978. Based off of what a close family member is telling me, he did not have a great time in high school. He mentions that he was in football. This is not true. He never played any type of organized sport, and there's a reason for that. Could you imagine Hybrid playing any kind of sport, especially something like football? Now, based off of what I was told by this family source, due to Shawn's height and, the racist history of Canada, he was the target of a lot of oppression. But let's be frank, there were white kids who were intimidating him. His awkward personality probably didn't help the situation either. With the dawning of the internet age, Shawn was able to rebrand himself. Now he's this football throwing alpha male. But when you talk to him, he comes off, flimsy, effeminate, weak, unsure of himself. And, well, that's because that's his real personality. But prior to things like video streaming, when he was in those chats, when he was in those forums, when he was on those threads, he was talking big shit. Oh, talking the biggest of shit. He feels more comfortable in those type of settings because people don't really hear his, whiny ass voice and become immediately suspicious about how much of a tough guy he's supposed to be. Even though he is pretty anti-black and has a lot of self-hatred because of his blackness, specifically because he's a biracial who happens to be pretty dark-skinned and pretty unambiguous looking, he feels really insecure about who he is. But that's not his real focus. Honestly, most of his focus has been anti-woman. And when you look at his Facebook account and other social media accounts, it was almost like he was trying to highlight black oppression. But I don't believe it was from an honest or sincere space. I think it was really meant just to troll his mother, who he has a long-term feud with. You're probably thinking, why does this random troll's life matter to anyone? I mean, I think you're stretching it when you say the word matters, but his behavior on YouTube has become very toxic and it's created a space where people feel unsafe. Under the Black Knight Fool account, he harassed a variety of people to the point where YouTube, of course, deleted his account, mainly due to hate speech and harassment. He recently rebranded himself as Hybrid Vigour, this anti-black, pro-mulatto, activist. I mean, it's really interesting that this person identified as black, like, for their whole life until, I guess, about 11 months ago. And now there's some fucking activists and there's some type of expert when it comes down to mixed race history and all that other shit. Insert the Huey whatever nigga clip. For a person that claims that most of his focus is on mixed race issues, he spent most of his trolling harassing women. Now, he would go to forums yelling at women, basically calling them androgynous, manly, especially if they had any opinions that he didn't agree with. This is something that he's done for a very long time. And he used pseudoscience that he picked up while he was in school to support, quote unquote, his ideas. But most of his ideas are gross, like, you know, believing eugenics is a good thing. I mean, if that was the case, bruh, you would be on the bottom cast still, especially since you are a mixed race person with overt psychiatric issues as well as social issues. Now, you gotta keep in mind, Shawn's behavior isn't just online trolling. I mean, sure, he's calling women ugly lesbians if they have the audacity to disagree with him, and yeah, that's some bullshit, but you know, that's not really something that I would argue that is that concerning. I mean, it's fucked up and childish and everything, but illegal? Not so much. Though his trolling was problematic, childish, and annoying, it never crossed the line. At least I couldn't find an obvious situation where he crossed the line. That was until he came across a YouTuber by the name of Biracial Lip Gloss. Biracial Lip Gloss's channel is mainly about biracial celebrities, biracial musicians, mixed race social media personalities, all of those kind of things. She was just giving her personal opinion on her observation. We're talking some really vanilla type shit, like not super controversial. Usually she wouldn't go outside of her professionalism. There was a few times where she had to get gutter, but for the most part, we're talking very vanilla content. Apparently, her and Shawn began talking to each other, and it sounds like he was trying to suit her. Now, Biracial Lip Gloss is a very beautiful woman. I had to remove her face because I don't want her to get any more harassment, but she's a very beautiful woman. And I don't think Shawn understood because he doesn't have a lot of women. He didn't understand that beautiful women require, well, money. Let's just keep it a buck. Anyone who tells you that a pretty woman costs nothing is a liar. That's a lie. You're paying for something. You're either going to pay from the front end or the back end. Either you're paying for a beautiful woman to spend time with you as an escort, or you're making sure that your girlfriend, wife, whomever is taken care of, and you're going out to be the breadwinner. I mean, isn't that what men are supposed to do? You know, be the breadwinner? So Shawn, your broke ass had no chance in hell of really, like, seriously courting this woman. But clearly there was some level of some flirting going on, clearly, without a doubt. She seems to be a little mum about it. I think she's a little embarrassed that it even got to that point. But there was some level of flirting, had to be on some level. But when she decided that she no longer wanted to associate herself with him, he got really upset, super upset, to the point where he made countless YouTube streams bashing her, attacking her in Discord forums, literally harassing her from space to space to space. Even people who were friends with this weirdo indicated that he was obviously, definitely stalking this woman. And honestly, to those people who saw that shit go down and weren't doing anything, you should be ashamed of yourselves. The harassment wasn't just isolated to YouTube. He harassed her on multiple social media platforms, and very few people were willing to help her. Apparently she's reached out to the police, and unfortunately, since his behaviors haven't reached a certain level, they basically are ignoring her concerns. I'm not sure if she's reluctant to go down the civil route, but if she was to file some type of civil complaint against him, she would actually make herself a little bit more vulnerable, because now he'll definitely have her first and last name, and at very least who her lawyer is. Another way that he can find her or find people that she knows. All of these things are very concerning to her, so she decided that she wanted to leave YouTube. We are not dealing with your normal troll or your normal doxer. We're dealing with a person who will obsess over a person until he finally scares them away. But nigga, ain't nobody scared of your ass over here. So we're gonna go ahead and expose you completely and thoroughly in this video. Now that you have a brief synopsis of who he is and what he's up to, let's talk about how we got to this point in the first place, because people don't just wake up self-hating, misogynistic, struggle-faced trolls. Usually something like that is a transformation that happens, usually a response to trauma, and usually because of your parents. And let's talk about your parents. Now, I'm not above talking about someone's mother, especially when the bitch happens to not be worth a fucking thing. And Hybrid's mother is a prime example of one of those kind of women. Now, this ain't no manosphere shit. We're not just going to be attacking women just to be attacking women. However, if you believe in equal rights, then you believe that women can be held accountable for their trash behavior. And I'm a firm believer of equal rights, right? So, with that being said, let's talk a little bit about Hybrid's mother. Shawn Seguin of Ottawa, Canada, originally from Quebec, is mother of Shawn Seguin, better known as Black Knight Fool or Hybrid Vigour or whatever profile he's going by currently at the moment. Now, based off of what Hybrid has said about his own mother, apparently when he was 5 years old, he used to just run the streets. I don't know about anybody else's mother, but I couldn't cross the street until I was 11 years old, let alone just running around at age 5. So she's clearly one of them type of hoes who don't keep track of her own fucking kids. Hybrid apparently isn't the oldest child either. So there's an older sibling. So this bitch wasn't new to the kids when she was just having him run around like a fucking savage all day. The thing that I found very interesting about this story is Hybrid's mother is kind of old. I mean, Hybrid's old. He's 44. He turned 44 in January. Happy belated birthday, by the way. But his mother and father have a very interesting age gap. Like a really glaring R. Kelly level age gap. See, this broad is about 73 years old, right? Which would put her roughly around the age of 28, 29, 27 at the youngest when she was conceived and, got pregnant. However, Hybrid's father ain't even 63 yet. So let's do some basic math. That means Hybrid's father was between the ages of 16 to 17 years old when he impregnated Hybrid's mother. You know what that means, right? That means that big fat ass bitch was grooming some teenager from fucking Trinidad who probably didn't have many opportunities available to him and basically trapped him with a fucking child. Now, for those of you who don't understand the dynamics, you have to really understand what was going on in Canada at the time. Now, today we think of Canada as this big progressive bastion where all people can come, they accept immigrants, and they're so progressive, and they have socialized medicine, and they love the gays, and blah, 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 right? Most of that's bullshit, to be quite honest with you, but even if you do drink the Kool-Aid of Canada being this new, safe, progressive, neo-utopia, even if you accept that bullshit, you gotta realize one thing. The history of Canada is far more racist and far more oppressive than you could ever think of.
The system of systemic racism.
It's an inaccurate history.
This country was founded on systemic discrimination.
We don't talk about the origins, where it comes from, how our whole society is based on white male superiority.
Systemic racism is the normalizing of racism.
It's not directly in your face.
Systemic racism is something that touches every corner of our country, every corner of our institutions.
Commissioner Brenda Lucki said she struggled with the term systemic racism. Later, the commissioner said it does exist in the RCMP.
We definitely have that in the RCMP, and we are not immune to it at all.
These are institutions that were built with the intention and the understanding that they were not really to service people who are not white. There are these myths that we are so radically different from the US. Both countries are founded out of stolen and colonized land. Both countries have attempted genocide on indigenous peoples. Both countries have long histories of slavery.
It's easy to point somewhere else, and it's another form of gaslighting.
In Canada, we talk a lot about, the Underground Railroad, Black people escaping slavery and coming to Canada. But we don't also talk about how after the end of the Civil War in the US, that many of those same Black people went back to the US. And why did they go back? Because on the other side of the border, things were just as bad.
The police target and brutalize and kill Black and Indigenous peoples. We're literally paying for police officers to brutalize and kill us at disproportionate rate.
One of the officers shot him dead.
Moore was shot and killed by a police officer.
I don't understand how someone dies during a wellness check. The family says the 29-year-old was alone in the unit with officers when she plunged to her death.
Inexplicably killed Rodney Levi, shot by RCMP.
The ones we see in the media now are just the most recent ones. We've had hundreds and hundreds of cases of brutality and violence, sexualized violence, killings that have never been addressed.
Let's look at the ways this structure has historically been used.
People who were enslaved would run away because they were property, not only labor, they were labor and property. Their masters, the owners would want them back, and they would hire people to go catch them. And police forces emerged out of that.
The whole purpose of the RCMP on the prairies specifically, but across Canada generally, was really to suppress Indigenous dissent.
They were also used to take children, put them into residential schools, not follow up on complaints of the sexual abuse that was going on there.
Black and Indigenous people make up nearly 40% of our federal prison population, while comprising less than 10% of the general population.
If you don't believe me, ask the First Nation people. Oh, you can't really ask them because most of them are pretty much gone. Now, you can say that United States have a horrible history, and we do, but Canada got us beat. I mean, the way they did their First Nations people and continue to still treat them in such a horrible fashion shows you that the Canadian government has a lot of development that needs to happen. Also, you know, if memory serves me correctly, Trudeau was caught in blackface on multiple occasions. Right? So you're dealing with a country that it's not exactly on the right side of history when it comes down to racial issues, to be quite honest with you. It likes to pretend like it is, but it's really not. So when Hybrid's father migrated to Canada, Canada had just started letting people who were non-white through the door. And this was in the late 60s, early 70s. Right around the time Hybrid's father rolled in the door. So the power dynamics between a white woman who was in her 20s and some teenager who came from Trinidad is quite obvious. She held the power. And she didn't just have one child with Hybrid. Apparently there were two children, Hybrid and his brother. His brother looks like a slightly better looking version of Hybrid, mainly because, you know, he clearly works out and has some level of social life. So he hasn't turned into some type of demented fucking hamburglar out the mask looking ass person like Hybrid did. I mean, he became a normal, you know, healthy adult, it appears. But we're putting the cart before the horse. Let's go back a little bit. So when you think of why Hybrid is so accepting of child sexual abuse, you got to understand that he was raised in it. He was conceived in it. In his mind, an adult fucking with a child? Not the craziest thing ever. I mean, he get it from his mama. Like literally, he literally gets that ideology from his pedophilic ass mother. It's really a shame, but it gets worse. So apparently Hybrid's family has always had still have financial issues. I mean, look how Hybrid's living. So during one of the many times they had financial issues, the mother and father apparently split up. And the only way the mother would have been eligible for some type of benefits, I guess she was moving into some type of homeless shelter or domestic violence shelter. She came up with a lie that Hybrid's father was abusing her, which apparently wasn't at all true. But she had no problem telling that lie to benefit from the situation. And it made me think, this is systemic oppression incarnate. A white person uses their privilege to basically violate your teenage body, groom you into a relationship that now you're in your 20s and you're finally figuring out that you don't necessarily have to be with this person even though you have two children. And then this broad goes to the domestic violence shelter, lies and say that you abused her. I don't know if she filed a police report. Sometimes those agencies require some level of, some type of protection order. I couldn't find any of that documentation online. I looked, but it really set the tone on how Hybrid processed relationships with women going forward. I mean, it totally makes sense why he views women as nothing but liars and evil people who are vindictive and will use you and discard you when it's necessary. Now, it's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, this is just his mother's problem. It's not really a problem of all women, but for Hybrid, that's how Shawn wanted to believe all relationships were. Predatory women and men who are being victimized. And it makes total sense that he would be attracted to this whole men's rights when it comes down to like, and don't get me wrong, I support men's rights. A lot of times men get fucked over when it comes down to not only divorce, but custody arrangements. I get it. Those things are real. But Hybrid isn't really interested in any type of men's rights advocacy. He wants men to oppress women. And the only way that men and women can have a relationship with each other is oppressor and oppressed. And it's quite obvious based off of his internet history and his interaction with women online. We're going to talk about what he did to biracial lip gloss in a few moments, but I wanted to set the stage on this is the kind of person Hybrid is. This is who Shawn is. This is Black Knight Fool. He is a child of a sexual assault survivor and a pedophile, essentially. And when you think about it, I'm not surprised that he hooked up with, what's that dude's name? Mulatto security guard? Yeah, Adam Williams. Not surprised you two hooked up and became buddies, because apparently, according to the Angry Biracial, Adam Williams, not only was he arrested for attempted robbery, keyword on attempted, I guess whoever you tried to rob, they beat the shit out of you. Like, I mean, you should probably, I don't know if that's an occupational hazard or what, but Mighty Mouse, I definitely don't encourage you to pick any more fights. But also, according to Angry Biracial, and I've seen the court records, but a lot of information is redacted, so I can't verify 100% that this Adam Williams is the same Adam Williams that's Mulatto security guard. I mean, there's definitely a possibility, because Adam Williams is not that uncommon of a name. Williams is a super common last name and Adam is a super common first name. Until I see some verification that that's specifically him, I mean, I'm not trashy like those people, so I'm not gonna just say it is him. Oh my God, if it is true that Adam Williams was not only charged, but convicted of trying to use alcohol to seduce a minor, it explains everything. It explains why him and Hybrid are friends. They probably found each other on one of these like weird pedophile telegrams. You guys have no idea the type of shit that's going on the internet. And these people click up, and then it makes sense why they're all hostile and they like to troll together. It's some weird shit. But at the end of the day, it's something that we need to expose, and we need to put people's names on their behavior. I mean, in the case of Adam Williams, he put his name on the internet. Before he rebranded his channel, he wanted to help people who did not speak English learn the language. I mean, it's admirable, even though no one would hire his ass, because Hybrid has his husband, Mulatto security guard. He basically follows his orders to the T. If Hybrid tells him to go harass someone, he'll go harass them. If Hybrid tells him to shut the fuck up, he'll shut the fuck up. If Hybrid said, drop down and get your eagle on, he is gonna drop down and he's gonna get his eagle on. There's really no other options. But then there's this mulatto fairy chick. I think I know who that broad is. I'm confident it's this bitch named Flowers. And I'm saying this because they have very similar typing patterns. They're both mentally unstable, clearly. In the case of Flowers, if you've ever tuned into any of her psycho streams, she goes on and on and on about, oh, I called the CIA because the local police are harassing me, but the CIA won't help me. I'm like, you stupid bitch. Do you realize the CIA does not deal with domestic concerns? They only address international issues. You probably should call the FBI. You know what? Don't call the FBI. Call your fucking therapist. And the funny thing is, this Flowers woman, Flowers, Mix, Fairy, whatever the fuck this person is, she's also a tarot card reader. Really? You speak to the spirits? You commune with the spirit world? Oh, that's interesting. It's an interesting fact. How dumb do all of you feel? Anyone who's ever given this bitch $1. You are literally getting your future read by a bitch who don't have a future. I'm just saying, her future is pretty glum. I'm not a psychic or anything, but things aren't looking pretty well, and it's probably going to stay that way. This is Hybrid Vigour's crew. This is the mulattoes. This space can become very high school. People talking shit about each other, people threatening to fight each other. I think Angry Biracial said something to Hybrid, something to the effect of, you're talking about IQs, but that IQ won't prevent you from getting this ass whooping. I'm like, sir, come on now. He all the way in Canada, you all the way in Ohio. Stop the cap. Like, come on now. Y'all, both of y'all niggas is not gonna, we're past the age of fighting people. Especially when they live in a whole nother fucking country. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Angry Biracial is a very petty individual. Petty ass nigga. Hybrid was finally getting an opportunity to respond to Angry Biracial's attack on him. And Angry Biracial had the audacity to file a complaint through YouTube and had the fucking stream shut down. That's some petty ass shit. I think I kind of like that. That was some super petty shit, but it was effective. I said, you know what, that's actually kind of smart. See, that's one of the sad things about the Golden Sphere. Instead of you guys actually networking and learning from each other and building off of that, all y'all niggas did was fight. I mean, I'm here for it. I mean, I'm gonna help you fight, but I'm just wanted to point those things out. For those of you who don't understand what the Golden Sphere is, I've made multiple references to it, and I'm probably gonna make a few more throughout this video. The Golden Sphere is essentially a group of people who identify, keyword is identify, as mixed race or light skin. And when I say mixed race, they're all mixed with African American or black or something of that nature. There's no Eurasians in this group, all right? Everyone who's in this group has some type of sub-Saharan ancestry, and we're not talking like traces of it, we're talking like a significant amount. Most of the people here happen to be light skinned, or they happen to be what's called MGM. I don't like that terminology because it's not a real thing. But it basically means that they are a product of multiple generations of mixing. The appropriate terminology is called multi-ethnic. That's actually in the dictionary. But they choose to identify as MGM. The second largest group within the Golden Sphere are the biracials. Now, what I will say is the biracials are far more visible in this space. They tend to have the most streams. They tend to really share the most. I feel like the MGMs kind of in that space, they act like mammies. They mammy and they mule for the biracials there, and they really don't have much to add to the equation. My own personal observation. The Golden Sphere is also marred with weird child sexual shit. Like there was this gentleman in this space called Carl Williams who threatened to ejaculate in an 8-year-old's face because her father was trolling him online. And he made that comment on multiple occasions. Multiple members of the Golden Sphere were present during that stream. They were supportive of him during that stream, and I've already put the link inside of the description so you can check that video out. So that is the Golden Sphere. It already has side eyes for me. I already think the shit is weird, but there is some type of value for people who are mixed race to have a space where they can talk about their experiences, because a lot of times when you try to have those conversations with any monoracial group, whether they're black or white, either black people completely dismiss it and pretend like what you're experiencing is not unique and you just need to shut up and accept your blackness. And then on the other side of things, you have white people who just have a similar attitude where they're like, you just need to accept that you're black, but they a lot of times may feign sympathy. So, I mean, I understand why the space needs to exist, and they probably need to revamp it significantly. And they probably will. And honestly, I don't give a shit because I have my own space that I'm developing away from these channels, and I feel like it's a safer space for mixed race people, and it's not so aggressive. People aren't being attacked. At the same time, we are having conversations that are a little difficult, and I'm very happy with what I've been able to develop. So back to Shawn. Shawn, you are a bitch ass nigga. Like, I don't have any sympathy for you. Honestly, I get it. You are a child of child sexual abuse, and usually that would invoke someone's sympathy, but you are a piece of shit who harass people online all day, and you do it because you feel like you're safe and no one's going to do anything to you. But I would encourage you to rethink that, because in the past people didn't know what your name was and they weren't really sure what you looked like. Well, those days are over with. I mean, never before did people know your name was Shawn Seguin. Didn't know you lived in Vigour in Ottawa. I mean, you may have mentioned that you lived in Canada, but you were never very specific. And now people know how to find you. Specifically your enemies. Many of your enemies have reached out to me. People who are not related to the Golden Sphere have asked for your address. And I'm like, look, I can't give you this man's address because I don't know what you're gonna do to him. I don't want to get any, I don't want to get any contact from the FBI saying, hey, somebody was harmed and we need to interview you because you're associated with this situation. I don't want any of that going on. But it's interesting that a person like you have amassed so many enemies, and they have watched you. They've been watching you. Like, you're what they call a LOL cow, which is pretty much in the movie Dinner for Schmucks, these like sickos would get basically these social retards and oddities together, and basically bring them together for this dinner to entertain these hateful ass yuppies who are just entertained by these, I don't know, social rejects. And that's essentially what you are, Hybrid. You are a part of that group of social rejects that will watch and laugh. And apparently they get together and talk about it in forums. It's kind of sick, honestly. And for the record, all of you who are watching Hybrid and he's your mule, essentially, I'm not the one. Like, I'm gonna let you know, like, you saw what I did to you, boy. Y'all couldn't do it. Y'all couldn't find a way to expose him. Don't end up like him. So y'all can continue to diss him and follow him and do all that shit. I'm not the one, all right? But Hybrid, how does it feel being basically on a digital human zoo? You're in the digital human zoo if you think about it. I mean, you thought Altabanga's life was just hilarious. I mean, you implied that since he was a pygmy, he wasn't a human being, which is the most ludicrous shit ever. I mean, Altabanga had children. He has descendants. 100 years from now, there's gonna be more descendants of Altabanga. However, in 100 years from now, there will be no descendants of Hybrid Vigour, and the world would be better off for it, to be quite honest with you. For those of you who don't know who Altabanga was one of the many Africans who were put in human zoos in the earlier parts of the 1900s. Altabanga eventually committed suicide after years of depression after basically being treated like an animal inside of an actual zoo. Hybrid thought it was funny, laughed at the man's death, and it really shows you how callous and disgusting he is. And honestly, the goldensphere for the longest time supported this guy. So at the end of the day, they get some of the slime. So right now we're about to go through Shawn's greatest hits. And when I say his greatest hits, I really mean the racist bullshit he posted on social media. Now, he was initially on Twitter, but got kicked off. He's made multiple Twitter accounts and got kicked off. I'm confident he probably has a new ghost account that I haven't been able to locate, but honestly, do I really need to at this point? You'll get that idea of the kind of man he is based off of his comments on not only Gab, but also Twitter before they kicked him off. And when I say man, I probably should preface that with saying man-child, because you're really dealing with a 40-plus-year-old man-child who doesn't know how to handle social media, so he hurls ad hominem attacks at people and essentially, well, lies and slanders them. But we about to expose this ugly, short, fat motherfucker right now, so let's go through these. Ha, this is a good one. Now bear with me, this motherfucker is too retarded to use anything like commas, so you're really just looking at a bunch of run-on sentences, so it's difficult to get the flow of things. So if I mess up on a couple of things, understand it's due to lack of punctuation. Alright, can someone kick the bitter incels / MGTOW posters out? This group is not to whine about women or feminism like women, but on how to be masculine. To be a masculine man. God, we need some comments. It's for men, not merely males. There are many other groups about criticizing women. Go there. Isn't that ironic coming from him when literally all he does is bitch about women? And one of the responses, can someone kick this woman groveling idiot out? This is a group about masculine men. Okay, you're both losers, bro. Here's another one. Oh my God. Okay. I guess he was trying to say liberal, but he spelled it without the L. So Ibral women equal queer women. They are mostly just baby killers, whores, and lesbians who are not good for anything but one-night stands. Fuck, this is a long one. So he was complaining about another poster. I guess that poster was deleted because I can't find the thread. AKA LGBT white women who are against the nuclear family and heterosexuality, manipulating the more straight right-leaning women to not vote for Trump. Just a heads up. First of all, nigga, you ain't even in America. Why do you care? Why are you worried about our fucking politics? Why don't you get the politics in Canada correct? He goes on to say, it is not white guilt, but they are trading their race card for their gender or queer card, which they believe they will get more mileage off of in the long run. And he goes on, and it's really hard to read this because there's no like punctuations. Like you'll see 4 or 5 lines and then one period. It's like, dude, did you ever pass an English course, like a collegiate level English course? Because fuck me. Here's a retweet. Well, not a retweet. Excuse me. It looks like a repost from someone else's account. Somebody by the name of Joyce Wake posted, what they call white supremacy is really just white dignity. The dignity of homeland, the dignity of cultural integrity, the dignity of communal pride. When they say they want to smash white supremacy, it means they want to destroy your dignity as people and humiliate you. Wow. See, Hybrid's all for white supremacy. even though he's not white at all and he would not benefit from white supremacy. You can tell by the project building he lives in that clearly he's ain't benefiting from shit. Okay, and it looks like he reposted an article regarding 12 things white people can do to make the future a better place. Here's one of the rules. Before we get into this, the person who posted this is apparently named Dave Cohen. This article was allegedly posted June 1st, 2017. I'm having trouble finding this original article, but this was a repost on his gab.com social media platform, I guess. And here it goes. One of the rules you can do to make the better place, white people, don't have white children. Don't perpetuate the construct of whiteness and racism by birthing a new generation of white people. Have mixed children. It's interesting you post that because, Hybrid, you're mixed and you're about as coonish and fucking white supporting as a person could possibly be. So clearly having mixed children isn't the key. I think the real key is not being racist and not training your kids to be racist. I really don't give a fuck what color you are. I mean, you can train your kids to be ignorant and prejudiced, and whether they're monoracial white, monoracial black, or a variation of both, the end result is you're gonna have an ignorant ass, prejudiced ass kid. So let's try that. Holy fuck. So the comments on his thread get way worse. Wow, this is a horrible one. One of the responses was, and it was about apparently the alleged author of this article. Come on, everyone. Would a swarthy, alien-looking organism named Dave Cohen who writes for BuzzFeed offer you poisonous advice? Another poster put, Cohen, every fucking time. Hashtag every fucking time. Basically saying it's the Jews, because Cohen is a very common Jew last name. Dave is one of the Yiddish Yik. Oh fuck, I'm not reading that. I'm not gonna read that. This is some racist ass shit. I'm not reading that. You guys can see what it says. Like, this is the kind of people he liked to hang out with. These are the people who felt were more like himself. Piece of shit, man. Here's another comment from him. Another male lesbian who thinks he can hide his stupidity under his umbrella version of race. Just run already. Alt cringe. And the interesting thing, he's doing all of the stuff necessary to get favor in the alt-right world. But to be quite honest with you, it doesn't look like they give a fuck. It looks like they pretty much ignore him. He doesn't get any likes. He doesn't get much engagement. That's interesting. Here's another comment. Look, boy, I will send you back to Africa if you keep running your mouth. Wow. Perhaps if your father never left Trinidad, he wouldn't have got molested by your big fat mother. Something to think about. He literally posts pictures of his brother, who apparently was stabbed 7 times and survived somehow. I don't understand what value that is. He went on some type of tirade about, how dangerous things are, and, it's pretty sick. Here's another comment. This is a good one. It's quite the paradox. They think that they share IQ with their race as opposed to those who have the same IQ score. Those who are less intelligent try to hide under the umbrella in hopes of being perceived like those who are of a higher intelligence because they look more like them than other people. In other words, he's basically trying to say that people who support the idea of, race and IQ being linked are generally wrong. But he will come in the golden space and say the exact opposite. It just shows you he has no integrity. What he says will change depending on who he's talking to. He's a flip-flopping ass bitch with no moral core. Oh, here's another anti-Semitic repost from Black Knight Fool. Black supremacy, LOL, the Jews. I mean, do I need to even continue to read this? You guys can read it. It's the most disgusting shit you've ever heard. It's like when he's not attacking other black people and when he's not attacking other LGBTQ people, because this nigga is about as queer as fucking Christmas in July, he's attacking Jews. Wow. Bro, you really want to get canceled. So I'm going to make sure every community that you've been talking shit about know exactly who you are and where to find you. And figuratively speaking, online, not like his personal address. I would never let you know that he lives in Vigour near Ottawa's downtown area. I would never tell you that information. And when I say that this dude is queer, clearly, he had a very unique relationship with a person by the name of Tranime Girl. Tranime Girl is a trans person. She is apparently alt-right. And apparently they have a very, very close relationship. Now, what his response to a comment that she made, when trans women receives hate from the right, it's just homophobia because they don't believe it's a woman. but a homosexual or bisexual man. When they receive hate from the left, it's usually lesbians, so it's misandry. To say that they are transphobic, like saying that an atheist is godophobic. Godophobic? For a person who claims to be very intelligent, you've never heard of the phrase theophobic? Because that's the word you were looking for. I've noticed that you have a very, very weak grip of the English language. For a person who claims to have went to a master's program, I mean, just like things like commas and using words in its appropriate context. Like, it's really hard for me to read these messages, not because I can't understand them, like the concept that he's trying to expound, but it's more that they're written so horribly. It's like, damn, bro, you've never heard of a comma before? Like, so yeah, the word is theophobia. Theo meaning God, phobia meaning fear. Tranime girl. Apparently, her profile, a reasonable tranny combating gender insanity and restoring relations between transsexual women and natal women. Natal women. Y'all like being called natal women? How's that for a name? Natal women. Fuck out of here. Let's read some more of this bullshit. This is the comment he made. No, you guys are queer dudes. You are neurologically different kinds of men, mostly feminine with low testosterone and low IQ. We just talked about how dumb this nigga is. He's talking about somebody's IQ. And this was back in 2019. The response was, look at this idiotic gym. Here's another one attacking some chick. You're not looking too intelligent there yourself. I mean, she's a chick with like dyed hair, kind of a silly little hairstyle. I mean, it's not the worst I've ever seen. I don't get his point. He never really has a point. Her response was, the online intimidation tactics I understand the least is badly cropping screenshots of my profile then sending them to me. Shoe on Head. Now, Shoe on Head has already talked to you guys a little bit about what maps are. Shoe on Head is, as I mentioned, a very big YouTuber. Apparently he didn't like the fact that Shoe on Head was upset with these people putting their kids in this weird anti-feminism t-shirts. So Shoe said, I hate the use of kids to push political agendas. Not only that, but this could potentially open them up to bullying or trouble since the shirts are very divisive and pretty crude. Do not like. Now, he didn't like the fact that she had an opinion, so he responded, they don't even know what it is, and it's just one picture. It's a picture, then it's gone. Who cares? You can tell this nigga ain't got no kids. Like, or not only does he not have kids, he's not familiar with how children interact with each other inside of school, especially in this new social media world, where a picture that you've taken at a rally could find itself on some threads or get passed around to other friends, and then you're in school getting cussed out or fighting or dealing with a whole bunch of shit because your weird parents wanted to use you as a tool to attack a whole nother group of people. A good example of that is, remember the Guy Hates Fags people? When they used to have their kids out there and, you know, having them wearing all that anti-gay and anti-military and generally anti-people shit? Well, people used to throw stuff at those people and their kids. So in essence, they were putting their children in the line of fire just for their fuck shit. Grown-ups, if you want to go out and do fuck shit and protest and basically make your opinion heard, do that. Just leave the kids out of it for their safety. Shoe's response to Shawn was, quote, they don't even know what it is exactly the whole issue people have with a shirt like this. LMFO. There is a reason I disable kid merch options on my store. This is top tier cringe and not the good spicy kind. And of course, he made a whole bunch of responses, but you know, his account was deleted, so I couldn't really find those. One of the responses to him was, does this guy think everything on the internet disappears when he looks away? We could literally go on and on and on and show more and more receipts of this weirdo just harassing random people, attacking them just because they have an opinion that isn't, you know, anti-woman or anti-Semitic or racist or anti-gay. Hell, even if you do have some of those type of statements, he still will find an issue with your comment and try to attack you for that reason. He's one of those people who just go around looking for trouble online, because he would never go around looking for trouble offline. You know, he'd get his ass whooped. See, it's easy to be the tough guy online. Well, that's of course until a bigger wolf shows up to take your ass out, which is why I'm here. My job is to get you the fuck up out of here.